I'm standing in front of the Samuel and Harriet Freeman house. Now, if you recognize some of these patterned blocks behind me, it's probably because you are a fan of Frank Lloyd Wright, who wasn't the most famous American architect, indubitably. And the Freeman house was one of 4 textile block houses that he built in the 1920s for various clients around Los Angeles, including the Ennis House, probably the most famous, the Storer House, and La Miniatura in Pasadena. First, a little bit about the Freemans. They were wealthy patrons of the arts, and they turned this house, which was built in 1924, into sort of a political and artistic safe haven for a lot of the most creative minds at the time. The famous choreographer Martha Graham, the band leader Xavier Cugat, photographer Edward Weston. I even read that Clark Gable stayed here for a time as one of their tenants. So especially during the McCarthy era, this was kind of a political safe haven where you could come and express your ideas freely without fear of reprisal or being turned over to the feds. Like a lot of Wright's work, he would design it and then turn it over to somebody else to work on it. So in the case of his 4 textile block houses, that was his son, Lloyd Wright. He was the construction engineer on this one. And of course, Lloyd Wright would become a well-regarded architect in his own right. Over the years, some of Wright's most famous protégés would work on renovations to this. So, for example, Rudolf Schindler, one of the kings of modernism, he ended up basically carving this home into a few different living spaces. John Lautner also participated in the history of this. So Lautner was an apprentice of Wright's at Taliesin. And he came in and worked on one of the most famous architectural features in this house, which was these miter-cut windows that met at the edges of the home and provided these wraparound views without any kind of vertical framing device. And while that would become a pretty standard element of mid-century modern houses, it was not at all common in the 1920s. Lautner came in and realized that the original windows were not holding up too well. And so he came in and replaced the original wood frames with aluminum so that it could withstand years more of looking. So the Freeman house is also pretty fascinating from the perspective of historic preservation and architectural preservation. Wright was kind of infamous for caring less about the structural properties of the house than the formal properties. So he famously liked having flat roofs that oftentimes would leak. And there are plenty of these textile blocks. They're basically made out of sand that just ended up dissolving over time. Over the years, this thing fell into disrepair, and that was hastened by the Whittier earthquake and then the Northridge earthquake in the 90s. So it has been quite an uphill battle to restore this thing. In 1986, the original owner, Harriet Freeman, bequeathed it to the USC Architecture School. And they undertook a lot of renovations, but they just couldn't keep up with the pace of the decrepitude of this thing. So when I visited with my daughter earlier this year, these plastic sheathings were not up, but you could tell like a lot of this wood is falling apart. On the garage, it's still there. And you can tell there are some cracks on some of these blocks. In fact, some of them are missing. All the original furniture and lamps and stuff has been in storage somewhere in South LA for a long time. And it came out a few years ago that a few of the pieces had actually been stolen from the warehouse. Earlier this year, in February 2022, it was sold to the Weintraub Real Estate Group, who have done a lot of historic preservation and adaptive reuse projects. And that is why it's covered in plastic and it has no trespassing signs, and it looks like a little Nest-style camera up taking pictures of me while I'm taking pictures of the Freeman house. Hi everybody. The Weintraub Group is supposed to allow public access to this property once it's restored 4 times a year, so I will certainly be back here to see the interior. So I hope you've gotten a sense of why the Freeman house is so important from a variety of perspectives. It's really functioned as a laboratory for different historic preservation efforts. It also is a great case study for how an important building can change multiple times over the years, change from the original designs, and still preserve what's important about it and become part of what's important about it. Thanks for doing LA with me.